Okay, source of information in magic. This is where it gets very difficult, because essentially we can use the word magic here to be experimentation in terms of psi phenomena. Okay, but you doing it in a ritualized formal way because that's a way of doing it. Okay, or indeed in a meditational way because that's a way of doing it. We're talking about consciousness and a manipulation of energy and manipulations of perception, intention, and that sort of thing. What we're not talking about is a hard and fast science which will each and every single time provide a reliable result. So we have to turn around and say that the use of the word or the phrase "it works" or "magic works" is not appropriate or compatible with the phenomena at hand. So therefore that's gone. Instead, we're replacing it with the understanding that there is an actual force there, which can at times, if all your ducks are in a row and you've got to work out what your ducks are, could lead to a particular effect of some description. But it might not. But you can practice and you can train and you can potentially get there. So essentially, that means that the organism, the physical organism, the mental organism, is where everything happens. It's not elsewhere, necessarily. So what particular sources of information should you go to, and how should you perceive them? Point number one. Whenever anyone says anything about magic, the occult, witchcraft, and the rest of it, they are speaking purely from opinion, because there's too much which is unknown. Point number two. The only thing we got to go by is a series of personal experiences and some folk myths. That's all we got to go by. The folk myths themselves are, in many cases, blown up out of all proportion. When I watched that documentary on Wicca and witchcraft recently, there was one lady on there who showed, in her facial expression, the way that she was in her demeanor, that she was convinced that a particular person who did a particular ritual led to someone else in a different country having a car accident. My point would be that car accident could have happened anyway. So why specifically are you linking the performance of the ritual with that which happened out there? You can develop beliefs and opinions, and maybe hypothetically there is some energy which is being sent to that particular place, and hey presto, the person has a car crash. But it might not be the case. That might not be the causal factor. And therefore we've got to be humble to what we don't know. So the first source of information that we must not use is that which is based upon fear. Within the New Age and the occult and the pagan worlds, there are lots of people who want to be cult leaders, okay? And they will use superstitious fear and dread, and they will use overly elaborate expressions of what they think happened in a particular time in order to bring about the superstitious fear and dread which keeps you under control just purely for their own personal, emotional, sick, twisted reasons. Or because they think that their particular cult will actually make the whole world better, and therefore they save the soul through bringing you into it. Because that's like perfectly rational, logical, and intelligent, and objective, and true in every possible way, isn't it? No, it isn't. It's madness. It's an actual madness. So if you can't trust the people who are making strong claims about this stuff, many of the books which have been written on the subject of occultism, magic, and spiritual healing have in many ways been written for a political purpose. So therefore there is some stuff in there which is not necessarily relevant to you as a seeker of the truth. And what we're trying to do is to seek the truth, not to believe lies, right? We're trying to work out what is true based upon a handful of personal experiences and a group of folk myths which is out there somehow. Sometimes we can correlate things from our experiences to those folk myths and saying, well, maybe there's a similarity there. But it would be an aberration of truth and reason to suddenly turn around and say, therefore this particular folk myth has been proven, no matter what it is. Okay? That would be fallacious reasoning, wouldn't it? So a lot of the thinking which goes on in the magical community has aspects of it which is fallacious, which is false. But we still have the phenomena which occurs periodically within our own lives and within the lives of other people. So the sources of information you get should, in my opinion, be used to teach you something about states of mind and attitude and approach. But if it's written from one particular person's point of view and they're using some rather strong language, such as Mr. Weirdfuck, right? Then your perception as to what is true could be affected by your emotional interpretation of the contents of the words. I mean, when he's writing about rising the plains, he goes on about, you should do it every single day, even though you have to bite your tongue and blood gushes forth from your mouth. No. Alistair, you're a bad man because you said that, okay? Because that's an extreme expression. What he could do is just say, why don't you do this every day? Because if you do it every day, you can build up some perception and skills, and it will affect your neurogenesis and neuroplasticity in positive ways, which will enable you hypothetically to start doing a few more weird things. That would be more accurate. That would be more true. So, of course, I'm critical of Old Crow because he says things in the wrong way. All right? We need to have objective communication about this. It shouldn't be overly religious. It shouldn't be overly spiritualistic to a certain extent. We need to have some spiritual language and religious language, of course, because those are the psychological tools that we're using to attempt to reach altered states. And then when, an energetic experience happens or, an entity experience happens, it's like, oh my word. Okay. So think carefully about your approach. These things have to be read kind of like side on. So you're not just like taking the full force of their words. You're still using critical reasoning to analyze what could actually be going on there, how it could be beneficial, how it could be useful. Use your critical reasoning skills. There's lots of stuff going on here, okay? Angel experiences, ghost experiences, the experience of casting a circle and feeling it, the astral projection, the prophetic dreams, the dream telepathy, the this, that, and the other. I mean, there's so much going on there. It is rather, oh my word, there's so much, it can blow your mind. And because it can blow your mind and it's such a big subject, doesn't that, within some people, lead them to want to find someone who happens to have the knowledge that they require so that they can learn from them? But if everything is to do with your experiences with your own being and your own energy fields, then it makes sense that you have to teach you. This is not like the situation of, people arguing about which god has got a bigger cock or whatever. No, let's stop that. Stop that at once. You should be thinking more about what your energy field is about and what skills you can develop in order to change its state for the purposes of attempting to achieve something, whether it's like a mediumship or a psychic reading thing or whatever. And I think that's what you need to be thinking about when you're going through the process of searching for sources. All right, you're not searching for sources. What you're searching for is ideas to experiment from and put to the test to see whether there is some validity to that particular approach, or to see whether you personally have the skills to do it. A bit like a kid having to go on a punch bag in a fun fair to see what strength he's got. You got to be able to see, like, have I developed myself in a particular way to hypothetically enable this to occur, and then testing it, and then working out maybe you need to work on your concentration more, maybe you need to work upon the meditative state more, maybe you need to think about whatever, maybe you need to experiment more with the aura, the energy field, the chakras, and then build up an understanding from that, and then from that point you can then springboard yourself into another area of experimentation, research, and playing around. I think that should be an attitude that we should be taking. And this desire that we have within magic to go to things which are old, or to go to things which are somehow intellectually or emotionally intoxicating, I think that's got to stop. We have to be humble to what we don't know. We have to be humble to the way in which we approach this stuff and the thoughts and feelings and understanding that we get when we have experiences. Nothing is 100% known. We shouldn't use the words magic works or the power of prayer works or it works. It's wrong to do that. It is right to be analytical and clear-minded when trying to analyze phenomena. It won't turn you into being a great powerful Merlin. Wipe that thought from your mind. Wipe it, wipe it, wipe it. Send it away. Boom, gone.